Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Question Time Live. As you will see, I put in the effort this week. Back in the studio now. However, one little bit has gone wrong. Me trusty microphone USB connections failed, so we are still on the normal audio, but we'll get that sorted for next week. So I suppose we should start with a koi keeping weather report. I'm not pleased to say it's absolutely shite. As we can see, unheated ponds, absolutely no fun whatsoever at the minute. I think it's fair to say absolute chaos out there with that. So yes, stay sane, guys. I'm sure, well, it'd be nice if we could get a bit more through October. It seems September just seems far too much to be losing it now at this point, but keep them crossed. We can get a bit So the weekend, however, it did stay nice, and Sunday it was fantastic for Battle of the Breeders, the Part 2 event. Also, those you see, I've had a little change around. Look behind me, got a few of my awards stuck up on the wall. They're quite prominent ones, them as well. However, they are hanging on by a thin thread of blue tack, so I'm half expecting them to fall down at some point. Stay tuned for that one. But yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. Amazing to see everybody again. It's just fantastic to spend, time with very passionate, enthusiastic koi keepers and get to enjoy, for me personally, seeing the look of surprise on people's faces when, was it 3.5, 4 months prior, they bought these little fish, and you get a return, and what you see at that return, it just leaves genuine shock and surprise on people's faces. So very, very rewarding that for me. I do enjoy it. And yeah, other than that, not too much happening. I'll say not too much. I've had a little shipment in already. Not that I needed it, but oh my God, you cannot deny that, let's say heavyweights, two little breeders in there, Dainichi and Mariama. My God, honestly, absolutely buzzing for what we've had there. I've not said too much about the Dainichi stuff that's come in. The Mariama, I've shared a few them on our Telegram group already, actually, which I should, if I'd have been prepared, because I've been faffing around with this lot too much, I'd have got a link ready to get a few invites into that Telegram group. But what I will do, if you're on our WhatsApp already, I'll probably stick another link in there after we've done for a few more invites into the Telegram group. So that's a new community that we have set up. Really, really, just a lot of chat. I've chose that platform because it's really, I think the functionality there is a lot better than WhatsApp. It allows us to create topics, so you can go through all the different threads individually rather than just have this one constant thread. Plus, you've also got the benefit of, chat history. So if you join later on, you can actually get back through all the previous stuff in there as well to see some of the historic stuff, historic information as well, which is quite good. So some of that, you say, it'd be useful resource for people over time as well. So yeah, really pleased with that. But I will get a link up somewhere. I might be able to get it in here actually while we're doing, but if you see me faffing around, that's probably what I'll be doing. Let's not forget, it's Question Time Live. Fire me some questions in, and we'll get work through them in a little bit as well. But yeah, other than that, guys, I'd say cracking shipment. I've actually, Mickey, I see Mickey's got a question there, and ties in actually because. Good evening, Ricky and everyone. Are your bags packed for Japan already? Yes, so you're going to be shocked at this, to be fair. I've actually decided I'm not going to go in this October. I've already got a trip booked in December with a client, which is quite an important one I do every year. But just looking on the workload at the minute, you've probably seen the Koi Talk video. So we're working hard to get that pulled back together. Plus one of the new services we're going to be launching soon, which there's going to be some information on that very, very soon, actually. And so that's why it's worth being in that WhatsApp and Telegram group to be the first to pick up on that. But yeah, with all that going on, and I've already this morning, oh my God, absolutely amazing, I tell you. So I'm just sat working away. 7:05 this morning, my phone rings and it's Fujo, and I can't remember the words exactly. It was something along the lines of, "Oh, first one's gone. Look, fucking blue tack, it's useless." Yeah, that I'd won the challenge. And I'm like, "What challenge, Fujo?" And yeah, I'm very, very pleased to say that I've managed to secure another batch of the NND Kohaku, the crazy big Tosai, like we had last year and did the grow out event with. This year, however, he has the selection. I've seen all the videos this morning. The quality level is even trumps them, and they're even bigger. I think when they come to me last year, they were 20 to 25 cm on arrival. These are already 27 to 32 cm, and they've got another couple of weeks in the mud pond on the food as well. Exciting stuff, but honestly, what I've seen, they are bonkers. So right now, not got any immediate plans to share with you on them, but we are going to be doing something. So bear that in mind. Going to be exciting. These fish are 5 months old, 27 to 32 cm. I was actually discussing the parent with him this morning. So it's an original lineage parent, which basically it's now the original spawning of all this was created through quite a concoction of stuff, quite a bit of Matsue blood in there, Momotaro as well. This fish, this parent fish is, I believe, 85 to 90 cm that they've spawned off this year. And it is an NND produced fish. So it's nice to see that lineage actually progressing down the generations. But I'm so excited to get these. Just the bit I'm trying to figure out at the minute is if I can get one of the big 3.5K ponds freed up for them, because I'm quite confident that if I can do that, we will be getting, bearing in mind I hit 45 cm this year in one of the 1,200 gallon ponds. So I should quite imagine 50 to 55 cm might well be possible by kind of end of March, certainly getting into April next year, as by that point be about 11 months old, 10 to 11 months old. It would be absolutely bonkers. So yeah, stay tuned for more detail on that. Very, very exciting stuff. But that was a great phone call this morning. We'd agreed the deal up front, and I'm sure he probably didn't quite remember what he put in the pod, and that's why he was phoning me to say that I'd won the challenge of buying fish mud pond side, even though I weren't there. So yeah, it's amazing what I can get done actually in hindsight. I mean, this time of year is a big one for Nisai, and I don't generally actually buy Nisai because my model is buying the Tosai that I do and then doing the raising. So we've got an absolutely phenomenal collection of fish to start releasing out over this October and November, which is where we're going to be focusing on. The Nisai that I do buy generally tends to be ones that end up getting stashed up in my collection, and believe me, that doesn't need to get any bigger at this moment in time. So yeah, busy, and there we go. Look, that's me making big grown-up decisions. I'm not sure it'll last. Who knows? I'll probably end up booking a last-minute one and being out of here. But no, yeah. So that answers your question there, Mickey. They're packed, but waiting for December, pal. At this moment in time, but it's going to be an exciting October, November with what we've got planned and lined up. Right, let's see what questions we've got coming in. And get to a few of those because I can't remember if there's anything else I do need to share. Let's see who's with us first of all. Good evening to you all. Let's fire a few up on the screen. Evening, Andrew. Evening, Mark. Evening, Humbercoy. Paul. Terry. Surplus Coy. Richard. That was fantastic. Richard's wife telling me at Bartlett Breeders how I think the fatigue of hearing my voice in their house was wearing thin a little bit. I love it. Luke, Susan over in the States, I do believe. Good evening, Daryl. How you doing, mate? Here we go, Vinny. I'm holding fast at 21.5 with my little heat pump. Yeah, I mean, amazing to hear the amount of sort of feedback and knowledge getting shared on the heat pumps at minute, and people's shared experiences and running costs and all the rest of it. So, Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. I've got to say, I'm tempted to put that poster back up, even though I know it's going to fall again. Yes, had to lower my feeding yesterday outside, pond unheated. That's a pain, absolutely is, but that is wise. You know, don't be overfeeding this time of year, because if you get that wrong, you know, it's going to impact your fish more with it being warmer, colder, sorry, and it's not going to be your filter's not going to be able to rectify problems as much. Evening, Neil. Evening, all. Coy boy, Gary, good evening, mate. ANC, Dave, good evening, pal. Yeah, Dave, congratulations once again. Dave won the main Battle of the Breeders event with his absolutely phenomenal Easter show. I mean, it really was a standout fish. That's actually a good point to talk about there, because I am going to put that up a minute, and you can all tell me it was a stupid idea when it falls down again. Which is going to a lot sooner than I anticipate as well. Yeah, so judging, this was really interesting, because when it came to judging the Grand Champion prize for that, we had two contenders. Now, one was a Dave's Issachua, and then there was a Momotaro Kohaku, both roughly the same size. Both, oh, it's going low. Both technically very good. So this is really where, if you was looking at these from a textbook perspective, which fish would have won? Now, it possibly might have swung in the Kohaku, which was eventually the reserve champion, because technically at the size they were, you would say more finished and more refined, because the Showa, the Sumi was not fully progressed on the fish. But although there was quite a bit of finished Sumi showing, there was a lot still showing that kind of Kage effect. Now, the big thing here, and this is that part of judging that I speak about quite a bit, is the element, that kind of fourth element of the passion and the kind of feeling of the fish. And it just had that extra kind of presence, the Issachua versus the Kohaku. It really stood out. A lot of people had already kind of picked it out. They'd actually picked it out at the first part of the event. But the second time round, you're just looking, and it's got that, probably that extra bit of luster in the skin, shine, and just the presence of its body and the way it carried itself, and just the feeling, the general feeling. It was, wow, that's the one. Although the Kohaku had all the technical elements and in its own right was a real standout fish, with that same Showa in the vat, the Showa definitely nicked it for sure. And that's the element in this, is very similar to the way in which the Japanese shows are judged. Now, that's not easy for you guys trying to understand, because realistically, you want a bit of a list to try and understand what's being looked at, but that misses that element. And the only way this does actually work is with a very deep understanding and experience of koi, having seen a lot of them and understanding quality, which is generally what a lot of the breeders do. But then what you get when you've seen so many fish, it takes more and more to actually move you and invoke that kind of emotion within, to go, yeah, wow, that's really got that extra 5%, 10%, which makes it the winner. And that was really a case of that there for sure, because I think, like I say, from a textbook perspective, probably hard to split them, or the Kohaku might have actually edged it, but it was clear that the Showa was the standout fish and the worthy winner in the end, if that makes much sense, what I've just waffled on about at all. It's an interesting one with judging, and I think that's where we see this difference of kind of, I'm going to say Europe versus Japan in that respect anyway, because over here as well, we are necessarily looking to train judges, and for that, you've got to have standards, information, detail, basically textbooks to learn from. And I do think it does become a bit of a box ticking exercise, which is where we see, for me anyway, some discrepancies between what they would pick and what I would pick in certain aspects. Not saying either or is wrong, it's judging. So there's different sides to it, and it can be done in different ways all over the place. You know, if you're showing in the UK, you get to know the UK standards. If you're showing in Japan, you get to know the way that's done. And yeah, it's very interesting. Right, let me see where we're at, folks. Quick point. I'm going to be in Japan for 4 days at the end of November and into December. I really want to visit a few farms to walk around. Which one will let non-dealers visit? Please let me know. Thanks. Yeah, end of November into December. So it might just be worth you, to be honest, seeing who's around who might be able to help and assist. There's a few English speaking ones you might be able to reach out to via Facebook and just say, would it be possible? But obviously just respect, like in my own cases, you know, when people ask, can I come and visit, have a look around, they're busy working farms. And it can be very busy at that time of year, just to give up time for somebody to, you know, have a walk and have a look around. That's not being rude about it. That's just a reality of things. So I can't seem to, I mean, Marihiro is generally quite an open door, but again, within reason, most people go in, they do sort of know who's walking through the door. You know, there's not too many new faces each year within the community. And that time of year, you might not find it's as open as it particularly would be like in the next few weeks to the end of October and early November. So I'd definitely say try and see if there's potentially anybody out there you could get a couple of days with, or then there it goes again. Let me jump then as well. Yeah. Or if there's a few of the English speaking farms that you might follow on Facebook, just reach out and see if they could spare an hour or something like that. But it's not, like I say, it's not a particularly open place. And certainly as you move more towards into December, even when I'm out there, you know, a lot of what I have to do is an appointment, because there won't necessarily be at the farms at that time as well. Koi Vlogs, Japan travel. Any updates on the farms that got some KHV positive results recently? That's not something I've heard anything about in particular. Yeah, and I don't want to really, I mean, I'm not going to start mentioning names on it. I don't know anything about it, and that's kind of shit. You know, if it's hearsay, can be quite toxic to spread around. So we're going to leave that one alone. But certainly I'll get my ear to the ground. My Rie, who works for us out there, has only recently got back in Japan, to be fair. She's summer holidays out in Ireland, believe it or not, where she learned English. So she's going to be back up and at it soon. And but yeah, I've been spoke to the guys. Nothing's come up. So be interested to find out there. Koi reading. Good evening, everyone. I did actually have a topic in mind for this evening as well, which I'm just going to write a couple of notes down on, because I think it's going to be quite a good one. So while I just rip through a few questions, actually, yeah. So what I had in mind was because somebody asked me about this, and I thought, you know what, it'd be quite a good one to do and tackle on here, and try and rectify some of the misunderstanding on it, I think. And that is around terminology used around selling fish. So HQ, VHQ, Tatigoi, one I've mentioned before, my God. And then certificates as well. So if there's anything on those topics you would like to know, fire them questions in now. I'll rip through a few more and then we'll pick that up. So anything you've got to add to that, please get in the comments. Evening, have you any plans for the next grow on, like you've just finished, or the one you did with Sunnybank? Yeah, so I've just mentioned the Kohaku. We're going to be doing something with that. And actually, if you saw my recent journal video, that has got a segment in there where we're doing a Hiyotsori grow out. Yes, you've got it. I think, you know, it's been what now, Shinoda Hiyotsori, I think a year. We've got to be about 2 years since I did that phenomenal batch, and I've got a great selection of pieces. So yeah, very soon you're going to see an announcement on the channel for that one. That's going to be the first one we've got coming up, because the fish are ready to get going now. So we're going to get them photographed and get everything done, and actually look to release that towards the end of this month. It's going to be 295 quid a fish, all in, including the growing and overwintering. So that's going to grow until the end of January, then overwinter with us until the end of March. They're currently about 17 to 21 cm, I believe. And yeah, over that growing period, they're going to absolutely lump it on. So I'm excited to do it. It's around the same time we did the Koshiji Showa one last year, I believe. So yeah, stay tuned for that. It's going to be a banger. Like I say, the fish do look good. You can get a snippet on them on the last journal video on the channel. And yeah, stay tuned for that one. But like I say, I think it's a hell of a lot all bundled in for that price point. But yeah, it's going to be absolutely mega. I think from where they're at, I mean, technically we're going to have, they are actually growing at the minute. They're still on the food. So they'll probably be closer to more 18, 19 to maybe 22 at the time. And then we're going to be looking at November, December, January. So 12, so roughly probably around plus 12 cm at the very least growth wise on them, with obviously all that improvement in quality. So really looking forward to that. And if you haven't seen what we've done with them, again, feel free to look back on the channel and see the journey of the last Shinoda Helixsaurus. They were absolutely insane. Roy Boo, evening all, evening Ricky. Really enjoying the new format on Telegram. Yeah, it's a really, really good bit of kit. I think they've seemed to have really focused on adding all that functionality on bits that WhatsApp might miss. And these groups, as they really get big, it can be crazy. And finding back stuff and following conversations is really tough. So really, really pleased with that one. Hard cheese. Any breeders or dealers that specialize in bonsai koi? Yes, Sakazumi is a guy that's done it for years and years and years now. Taniguchi is also somebody who raises quite a few of them. Oishi will have a number as well. It's not that they only specialize in it. They raise fish in that particular style. Narita is, of course, the absolute god at it, really, in keeping them at the right sizes and playing fish to their strengths in order to do their best at koi shows. I think I've just mentioned Oishi, and they're the first few that spring to mind. Sakazumi, the first time I did that was, I got over 20 years ago, this market stall he sets up where it's just full of fish like that. But a lot of breeders do have small Nisai now, but it's not necessarily raised as bonsai koi for the show perspective. Sometimes it's fish that have just been left in the fish houses, and there's a big difference between that and one's actually raised in this style. But it is becoming more and more common. Kondo's another guy that does it quite well. So really a lot, because that's the way, like I say, they compete at a show, and a lot of the time it's identifying a fish that really plays them to their strength to be raised in that style. Right, let's have a look. Oh, there we go. Actually, that's one worth a mention as well. We've got our ticket for the Black Zeus from Sunnybank. Yeah, so if you haven't seen it, Sunnybank's got an absolutely crazy prize draw raffle going on for my legendary male Black Zeus. Obviously, he stole that away from me, and yeah, decided to go to town and actually make it. Some very, very lucky person out there is going to win that fish. It's a very, very valuable fish, and a very rare fish as well, because from what I can gather, they've not successfully managed to spawn anymore, and it looks like they're giving up on that one. So there's very few of them in the world, and even from that, not many looked as good as that male one. And he's absolutely just getting bigger and bigger, looks insane. Yeah, get yourself in it, folks. Well worth, I can't remember what the ticket value is, but well worth a punt on that one. I think there's a cash prize draw as well if you didn't want a cash prize if you didn't want the fish. But very, very great opportunity for something that would be out of the reach for a lot of people. So check that out. I believe it's on their website anyway. Hi, Ricky. Great event at the weekend. You recovered yet and filled the empty ponds? Yeah. Keith, yes, empty ponds already filled, mate. That was, I think that was done before the event, actually. Crazy stuff. But yes, I've recovered. It was fantastic, mate. Really looking forward to the next one. I think the wife's tuned in, watching this evening. Hi, darling. What have I got for dinner? Oh, dear. Big bag of fuck offs, probably. Right, let's have a look here. Susan, I had a bit of a filter crash. Outdoor 2,600 gallon heated pond, 65 Fahrenheit. God, someone needs to convert that for me. I'm not going to have a clue. Now my ammonia is up. Nitrite 0, nitrate 5, KH6, pH 79. I'm having to treat for gill fluke. How can I get the ammonia down? What is that? Let me Google that actually and see where we're at, because I'm going to be absolutely no clue. 65S to F to C. Oh, 18. Yeah, so try I mean, you can try something short term if you haven't got any salt in, like zeolite is good for absorbing ammonia. I'm just wondering why you've had a filter crash with everything going on there, because yeah, seems a little bit strange to me. Have you? I mean, are you sensing ammonia in there? Normally, I'd expect to see some problem with your nitrite as well if you've had a crash out like that. So yeah, I mean, you can get bacteria like a PSB bacteria or something like that's very good at removing ammonia, or like I say, zeolite for a short-term fix. But it seems a bit of a peculiar situation to have absolutely no nitrite. But hey, see how you get on with one of those two. Have you done anything in the pond that might have actually triggered a filter crash up the feeding? Has it been that you're feeding too heavy? But again, I would have expected to see a difference in both parameters. Have you checked that it's not actually a dodgy test, which also could be a possibility because it's a peculiar set of readings, that one. Ebenezer Sagi around 45 cm from Ogata, has no Benny at all, never has done. Would you say at this age and size, this is a lost cause or could still develop over time? James, I would probably give it one more year. I mean, is it absolutely nothing at Nisai? Yeah, okay, that can happen. If it's never had it, it's more of a concern. So I think you give it one more year, a full kind of 36 months old as well at that point. If it's not changed, then I think you might say it's going to be a high risk. Not saying it still never will. It might be that a change in water or environment might actually trigger some development. But as it stands, it's going to be in your pond anyway. So, but give it time. Nisai is still a very, very young fish and a lot can change. James, hello from Glendale, USA. Wow. Good morning, afternoon, wherever we're at. I've not got a clue. If you were looking for a good show, which breeder would you choose and why? Oh, yeah. So Dainichi, Issa. I mean, obviously the Sakai stuff's limited numbers, but they're pretty impressive. This question is a tough one, but it always comes down realistically to how much money have you got to spend, because in this it's always a case of getting the best amount of fish for your money rather than trying to make a square peg fit a round hole. Because it's all right for me to sit here and say, oh yeah, Dainichi, when in reality your budget might be better spent going for someone like NND, for example. And that is just a reality. It's about getting the most for your money. So, I mean, if budget is no object, I'm going to Dainichi and I'm going to Issa, hands down. But again, you can get Issa fish at a relatively good price, but at whatever price that is, could you get a lot more at another breeder? Yes, would be the answer there. And certainly when it comes to Dainichi, the exciting thing, however, with this batch of koi that I've had in, all from one particular parent set as well, is the price points. I think we're going to be able to hit across the board. Obviously, there's a percentage of real top-end pieces in there, but there's going to be a group that are going to go out for really, really good money. From the parent set they're from, that's super exciting. I think it'll be the most accessible they've ever been. But that's a rare thing as well. That doesn't happen very often, and it's only the case when I'm getting a bit ballsy, trying to do some of the deals that I do, in all honesty. But yeah, they'd be the two top gunners really for Showa. But then, like I say, you drop into realms, and there's good Showa you can get at Hoshikin, NND, Marido. They're just the ones off the top of my head, but there's, like I say, plenty around where you'll get a good one from, and possibly more bang for your buck, depending where you're at on that scale. To be honest, now at some point, I mean, I'm definitely going to need some help housing some Asagi as well, mate, because my God, am I amassing a few at the minute. Sean Higgins, good evening. Stuart, good evening. Wow, Lee, that's amazing. Evening all, my Sankey from the Secret Sankey event last year's is now at 64 cm. Very good going there, mate. Well done. Congratulations. Family carp fishing. Good evening. Tony. Good evening, Ricky and fellow koi keepers. Oh, yeah, he did ask me to do a shout out. There we go, you reminded me. Birmingham Koi Show this weekend, last one of the season. So, yeah, if you want a bit of a koi nerding day, there you go, people. Pretty central as well for anybody traveling. Oh, right, here we go. Sorry, I've seen a correction. I've skipped that one because I couldn't make sense of it. So with Virkon, that's supposed to say, folks, what is a safe salt level to use with it? Do you need to dose it different by KH level? Can you send me your regime? Yes. No, I don't. I've used it with any salt level. There's no issues with that whatsoever, or KH, to be honest with you. It's completely independent of all that, how it performs and reacts. I've used it at all different ones and never seen any adverse. It all just comes down to the dosage and the program with that one as to what you're trying to do. I don't think this is in the case of, well, like I say, a bacterial infection or the regular dosing. I don't buy into the whole regular dosing thing. I've said that before. So I've got a regime that is used for disinfection during a severe bacterial problem to try and get on top of things there. On McCoy, if you're asking me, the show wasn't finished, but 100% the best fish there. Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, this is what you do see. You see a lot of fish in that kind of state winning proper awards in Japan, because it is more about that complete package of the fish rather than the technical elements. And that is often why in the UK, I think a shower might lose out sometimes in the more combined class awards when it comes up against Sankey and Kohaku, you know, because they aren't as finished as a Kohaku necessarily would be. Right. Yeah, so my koi seems to have swim bladder problems there, look. Shelled peas and Epsom salts. Yeah, the shelled peas one I'm not buying into whatsoever. Salts can help. Salt bathing can help because it sometimes can be a problem with, is it with the swim bladder? Sorry, that salts can help rectify. Sometimes antibiotics can help rectify, but it's really, really, really tough. There are sometimes aquarium treatments if you can isolate the fish that are not too bad in that scenario, but you are going to have to get them, you know, really warmed up and in a small amount of water, which can often also be too much stress for the fish at that point as well. Hello again from Alberta, Canada. Scrambling here to get ready for winter. Temps now 5 to 18. Let's see, wow, daytime and overnight as low as, wow, yeah. Shitter. It's a really pain in the arse, isn't it? Absolute nightmare. It's a yellow monkey, basically ate loads of food over the last few days and now gulping air and sticking in the corner. Oh dear. Yes, as you say, you want to obviously cut the food. Increased temps might help that one. And yeah, certainly try it out with a bit of a salt bath, or even bringing the salt level up in the pond, to be honest, might help that one. Andrew, have you got ponds that outperform others growth development wise, even though they are the same size and filters? Yeah, I mean, not development wise. Some ponds go through the motions a little bit, and it can be what's happening with the water at any given point. The ponds with the showers completely outperform the ones without. There's no denying that one. You know, where there's the 3.5K ponds, absolutely every time. Sometimes a pond can go through a bad phase in a year that you can't seem to make any sense of it at times. But then I've got others at the minute where we've been having drum kind of failures. They've been getting too much fresh water. That really skews the environment as well. And then you get others that tend to really just hit their stride and go for it. So, yeah, it's just, even though ponds can be identical, no two bodies of water are ever the same. And there's always something different going on in there. But generally, the performance is pretty consistent. It's just knowing when a pond is managing one takes a bit of a dip and addressing the problem as to why it's taking a dip and getting on it, because you can always generally pinpoint it. But no, other than that, I think the difference would possibly come between the performance of, say, the 1200 gallon ponds versus the 3.5 ones. The big thing there for me is, I mean, does the performance outstrip? I think if they were bigger ponds on those systems, I actually seem to think that that system would outperform the other ones. And that's just something about the results we get in them ponds. It's bonkers. And I actually think it's, again, because they're really limiting the fresh water that goes in there, that these ponds really find a natural equilibrium and perform so well. And a couple of weeks while Matt was on holiday, I was cleaning the systems in there. I mean, it's just absolutely rife with bloodworm as well, which will be working its way through the system. So yeah, it's just they really do hit a sweet spot. Like I say, I'm seeing that now where ponds are having to get too much fresh water because what's been going on with a couple of the drum filters, and as a result, the performance of those ponds really knocks. I know it's knocked the environment too much, changed it all too rapidly, and it wants to recuperate and find that natural kind of balance and equilibrium again without all the interference. Mark, good evening. Do parasites, Craig, do parasites such as flukes die off in winter if you get them as temps are way down? I don't have them, just curious. No, not necessarily. Flukes will always crop up where there's stress and where there's a fish that is stressed and its immune system's dipping. The flukes will prey on that. So yeah, bear that in mind. They don't ever really go away. As things cool off and there's not, stress events and stuff going on, yeah, you'd like to think. But as it gets really cold, yeah, the performance of it, you tend to find it all goes away a little bit. But this is why I say be sort of conscious of the temperature band that you sit in, because you'll keep a good level of parasite activity, especially with flukes and stress events, but their immune system won't be performing as well. But no, always be on your toes with the flukes. Would you recommend putting in filter starters in a new pond? Right, how I recommend, I mean, if it's an option and you're starting a new pond up and you've got heat in, the best thing that you can do really is get the temperature cranked up, get a few fish in, start introducing a bit of food. And at the point where new pond syndrome really kicks and you get your spikes, you start introducing bacteria at that point. There's no point doing it into an empty pond. It's absolutely ridiculous. You want to get started. If your pond's cold, however, you're in a different scenario, because, I mean, right now, if you're seeding up a new pond, you've got to be super careful if it's unheated, because you could get a spike and really be sat in that spike for a long, long time. Because it's not going to recover at the speed you would necessarily want it to. So do bear that in mind when you're starting up a new pond. Heat is everything, because you get the bacteria colonizing properly. When it's winter, you will get it. Like now, you would get it, but it's going to be really, really slow. So you're potentially going to be sat with some bad parameters and fish sat in that for a prolonged period of time, which will be no good for them. But yeah, filter starters, when you've got the spike, then is the time to really hit them with that. You're just going to be wasting your money doing it without. Yeah, look, the local Sparky, my pal Neil's decided to say hello again tonight. You reckon I'd been slacking off? You haven't seen me on here for weeks. Here's a question. Ricky, on a scale of 1 to 100, where do you rate yourself against the Japanese breeders? Reason I ask is, you're like us when you bowl up a big koi. We're wide-eyed and amazed. And when you're in Japan, you looking up. Yeah, of course, mate. I mean, it's the place where I go to learn still. I'm not going to rate myself on any scale, buddy, to be honest with you. But, at the end of the day, they have got resources. There's just stuff there where everything's being done to that level. Now, I'd like to think there's some areas that I'm matching them in. I could quite confidently say that I am, for sure. But then you obviously, there's levels to all that as well. That's only going to be at certain farms. And if you look at a lot of them, there's more resource. I know there's areas where I could improve to do more as well. I think the standard of raising, generally, I'm getting the Nisai where they need to be from a size, skin and colour perspective. And sort of, when I spoke to Fujo about it, he's been blown away with what I've done in the small ponds. Then we get to the likes of a Sakai and Momotaro, and you just go, wow. But obviously they've got, their resources compared to what I've got are completely worlds apart as well. So even breeders internally in Japan, there'll be good breeders that go to Sakai and just go, wow, holy shit. It's just levels, mate. There's levels to the whole thing. But ultimately, that's what in the raising game, the resources, facilities, pond space and everything you've got is what determines all the outcomes. I could produce, a lot of big fish, big collections, but the problem is I've not got the space to do it because they take up a lot of room at that point. And ideally, to truly do that how I want to, the ponds aren't big enough. I've done a good job of raising the big girls, but I know how much further I could take it with the right pond. And I know exactly what pond they need, how they need to be spec'd, and what I need to do. I just don't have them ponds at the minute. When you go to Sakai, he's got them in absolute abundance. Plus, obviously, they're producing a vast quantity of fish. But we all learn different things as well, pick different things up, try different techniques. That's what it's all about. But that's why I like to get out there as well, because we're all trying different things. And when people do share, you share all that feedback and you can knit ideas together. The way I raise fish indoors is knitting together experience I've had of actually programs used feeding in mud ponds more than anything, and how it's actually done there. And I've took that and implemented it and picked out all the bits I've picked from all different places over the years, as well as now just trying out my own, in the past few years, especially few ideas, my own ideas, mixing different up. And you just see, you tweak away and improve. But that's all it comes down to, learning, experience. But again, the bigger the scale you're doing it on, the faster that you learn, because ultimately there's only that one growing season every year, especially when them guys are breeding. There's just that one breeding season as well. So what you're learning and the speed at which you can generate a new lineage and stuff like that all comes down to the amount of resource that you've got and how much of it you're all actually doing. Right, let's see what that one is. Hi, noticed a mark on my fish's lip a week ago, checked it again today and it's got worse. I'm a bit concerned. It's lip rot. I've anti-back it and treated the pond with acryflavin. Anything else I can do? So first of all, you need to do a mucus biopsy and make sure there's no parasites present, because if there is, that will likely be making the problem worse. I would check that there's no other fish with a similar problem. If it's on its lip, it could be an isolated case that it has just got that and now it's opened up. The problem is, depending on where your water's at, it could get worse quite quickly. Hopefully it's not heading towards a bacterial problem and it is an isolated case for you. You might want to try a different treatment on it as well. Antibac, I'm not sure. I'm a big fan of Tamidin, the strong iodine, and it might need it every few days. There's an ozone gel, which is very, very good as well. I can't remember the name of it, but that's actually a fantastic product for healing up wounds and stuff like that. So I'm sure if you type ozone gel in Google, you'll pick up that product. But yeah, I would go checking, eliminate the parasites and that any other fish is suffering. If it's hit the lip, check a few underneath on the bellies around the base of the fins and stuff like that, because if they're showing signs, you need to look for it to potentially be in a broader bacterial problem, which will send you down a different route of treatment. Right, let's go with, I'm going to get on to Mark, so 43 minutes, that's unbelievable. No Midori tonight, nobody, because I'm at the office in the studio, so I've got to drive home, unfortunately. But that was amazing, guys. A few gifts at the weekend Battle of the Breeders, and a few of you got me loaded up as well, which is absolutely epic. Really do appreciate that. I've got some this weekend after your recommendation. Man, that is good stuff. Had to water down as it reminded me of taking a medication. Yes, you could call it medication if you drink enough of it, that's for sure as well. But yeah, very, very pleasant drink, especially if you like them on the sweeter side as well. Right, guys, so the topical bit. Wow, so many questions there. Sorry, I'm not going to get to all that. I've just seen there, Phil. No, I'll chase it up. I did drop it in the office. I'm not quite sure what's happened there, buddy, but I'll check about that certificate for you, pal. Right. Yes. So a few little words, a few innocent little letters that seem to cause absolute chaos, and they are HQ, high quality, VHQ, very high quality. The Tatigoi one, I think with 15 minutes to go, is probably not one to get into, but it is worth a little mention in how it kind of fits in that whole category, to be fair. Now, HQ, we'll start with that one. This really is, I'm going to say actually the Tatakoi one makes sense to get into because I've mentioned this before. All of these words, in essence, as a hobbyist out there, you just need to ignore the same way that I do. I mean, they do stem from Japan. So basically what will happen with it, and this isn't on everything. This is generally when you actually get into the lower end of the market. So a lot of the stuff that's actually done via consolidated shipping. So what happens is you get consolidators, big companies out in Japan that go around and list all the stock that breeders have for sale as mixers. So that'll be one breeder, say this Tosai mix, for example, there's 70 in a box. And, you know, some of them use a grading system on there as well from like 1 to 5 stars. But generally what will happen is a breeder might, and this can actually come from the exact same pond. So a breeder will know, as is with every batch of fish, there's always different levels and a breeder can't always separate everything. You know, we don't have the pond space. I don't often have the pond space. So you might have, you know, several grades of fish muddled together in one. And the whole industry, the Japanese industry, works on these different grades. Now, just because they're held in one fish, I know the breeder knows that there's multiple different grades and levels within that pond generally most of the time. So what will happen is these fish get listed out, but what might happen is a breeder, for example, will say, well, that this is the general mix, there's this, that, this variety, all the rest of it, but I can do a higher quality selection where when it comes to packing the fish, I'll actually put a little bit more effort in to pick slightly better fish, right? And that is as simple as how that gets used. And on these lists that people will order fish from, it'll say HQ, and that's just to indicate there what the breeder will do, and he might put a bit more effort in with the selection. The problem comes in this, that this is all so very subjective, because I've seen this, you know, what a breeder considers as high quality, right? And this is the point I really want to drill down into here, because for me, the definition of this, when that HQ is used, that can be just an indicator that an element of the fish is high quality. This is where you're going to get, honestly, it's so fucking subjective. I didn't even know how to tackle it really head on. So, I mean, a lot of the Japanese fish really versus anywhere else in the world, you could say are HQ high quality because they've got good skin and a good body. That is enough to deem that fish as high quality versus another one that might not have it. It doesn't mean the pattern is, you know, it can still be a 2 out of 3 and be deemed high quality because it's got high quality characteristics to it, or it's got very high quality characteristics to it. And it could just be referencing to one part of the fish. It could be referencing to the body, it could just be referencing to the skin, it could be referencing to the pattern, but the rest of it isn't so good. And now a breeder's high quality selection in that aspect might be that they pick a better pattern level, or they pick fish, you know, if they're metallic ones, they pick fish that have got a better shine. But to you, that might not translate as high quality when what you're looking at is the pattern. So the patterns might be shit, but the rest of the quality is all good. And this is where you see the subjective nature of this come into it. And it's really, really difficult. So hence why my default thing is going to say to you, you've got to look through it. Like any sales literature, patter, whatever it is used, you've got to look through it, develop your own knowledge, develop your own skills to understand what you're looking at. And you also, regardless of what's it's said around anything, you need to be happy with what you're looking at and what you're purchasing. But that is really how that term gets used. It's really a trade term more than anything that crosses over. And it is just to indicate really that an element of it has got some quality. Hence why really I don't see too much value in it. But like I say, from a trade perspective, you are just pointing out that this is better maybe than the batch gone before that's not. It's really just to indicate. But again, you shouldn't need to indicate. You know, if you're buying something that's you believe is high quality based on letters in front of it, you are just open to being robbed. End of. You need to be confident that what you're purchasing from your own knowledge is a decent fish and not be guided and swayed by that whatsoever. And don't pay a premium based on someone putting HQ or VHQ. And just because, you know, they have put that, if you don't like it, it shouldn't be something you should be buying, in all honesty. But the actual term, that's where it comes from. It's a trade side term that's used basically on with the general kind of more mass market koi. When we're talking about mega koi on them posters and like we use on the covers of the mag and stuff like that, that kind of terminology is just never used, because you don't need to use terminology like that. For me, it gets into the more realms of holy shit and fucking wow and stuff like that. You know, that's the jargon at that point. And to be honest with you, there's very few words often used. You know, when you put something incredible in a bowl, and I've been at NND with Fujo or Makoto, very, very few words. It's often just a look or a nod or something like that, because you know, you get it, you get exactly where it's at, or it's a noise or whatever it is. There's no letters needed to point it out, and the quality really, really does do the talking. But sometimes, obviously, it can help as a guide as well for the dealer to communicate to you what they're seeing in that fish and putting it through as well. But I just think from your side of it, you don't need to be looking at anything like that and just ignoring it. Just as people overuse and wrongly use the word tatigoi as well, do not be swayed by it whatsoever, because again, it's a very, very subjective term. Plus, again, you look at high Q, like with tatigoi, because I've said this before, one breeder's tatigoi could actually be another breeder's tatishita, his rejects. And likewise, you know, the likes of Sakai, the fish that they, you know, class as their lowest grade, in some cases could be as good as a breeder's tatigoi. So SQ is another term, the standard quality. You don't hear that so much because it's not as glamorous. But standard quality Tosai at Sakai, for example. So what's sold in Sakai's auctions that I've indulged in this year big time, I can promise you there's fish there far better and on par with tatigoi from some pretty decent punchy breeders, let me tell you. And I know that now because I'm seeing the results more and more, but they are absolutely, there'll be fish raved about by some breeders in Niigata, for example, this summer that are not as good as those fish that was just on kind of general sale in that Sakai auction. A Sakai tatigoi, I mean, God, yeah, that's going to take it to another level. But then let's not forget as well, there'll be Sakai tatigoi that no doubt a good percentage will go to complete and utter shit this summer and get harvested. And then fish, there will be fish amongst with the quantity that I bought as well against them that they'll look at and potentially go, okay. But it's just mega subjective. That's why I believe, you know, you need to be solid in yourself and your knowledge and understanding, and be buying where you're comfortable with your knowledge and understanding as well. You know, don't get suckered into spending big money because someone's hyped something up and you don't see it and you don't get it, because that somewhere in that's going to lead to disappointment and probably misery in your hobby, which we don't want. You're much better learning your way up the process like we all do. And then years down the line, you know, your understanding gets, and it just stops you having your pants pulled down, which is just, it's shitty. You don't want to be that. I love that one, Keith. I love that one. Right, so we're going to move on to the next bit in a minute. Certificates. You can feel it inside. You can see a good fish and go, that's nice. But when you see something special, you can't contain the excitement. You feel it. Yeah. And to be honest, that's going to change throughout it. You know, I can get excited about a fish that you guys might look at me getting excited and go, what the fuck? What have you been taking? That's pathetic. But my eye, you know, I'm looking at something and potentially getting excited because I see a quality in it and see where that fish really, really excited where that fish might be in 3 years' time, not the right now. Hence why I say, you know, I can be showing you that fish going, this is very high quality. This is fantastic. And you're looking at me going, Rick, what the hell? And in that case, should you buy that fish? You know, if you're really not seeing it, that's a gamble. But I think as well as that, you know, this high quality thing, it's kind of the weight and caliber of the person sat behind it as to determining, is that fish, you know, actually high quality? Who is it being determined by? Because basically, it's open for anybody. It's that subjective. What I did consider high quality, somebody else might not. It's all down to what's sat behind it. And like I say, it's what some breeder deems high quality and others might not. And it's all for different reasons as well. It can literally be that person's understanding of a particular variety that they look at and don't get it. So they can't actually assess it properly and give a fair opinion. So yeah, best advice I can give is just ignore all of it, because I think it's just going to lead you down the wrong kind of path with that one. Right, yeah, so certificates, there we go. That's the next bit on all that. Because another thing that I think absolutely throws people is certificate culture. Now, certificates are nice, don't get me wrong. Very, very good to collect. Do they actually really prove anything? No. Because trust me, the system on this is absolutely, I was going to say corrupt, but it's messy. So two types of certificates, really. So years and years and years and years ago, breeders in Japan started producing them. This is when I first got into it. So I've been very, very young, and my dad's shocked. My dad's like, Rick, this would be a really cool idea to do our price books and actually produce a certificate, an identification certificate for the fish. Because really there's two types here. We've got identification certificate and a certificate of authenticity. Now, some breeders do use them for that very reason. So big brand breeders, Taniguchi, Sakai's, people like that, they give them out, but only at a certain level, because there's costs to producing all this stuff as well. But they really want to restrict. There was a period a few years back, it was probably longer than that now actually, when China was really producing a lot of fish from parents of these big breeders and passing them off as original offspring from them farms. And that's tough, because these breeders need to protect themselves. You know, the brand is a lot, they put a lot of work into it, and they want to protect it naturally. So that's the reason they started dishing a hell of a lot more of them out, you know, with fish, but it's a hard thing to keep up on. So sometimes now you might get, I mean, this happens. So I buy a batch of, say, 50 fish out one of the Dainichi auctions. What do? They send 50 blank certificates. So by getting that certificate, yes, it validates that fish, but they're not all filled in. They are just then a blank certificate, and no real specifics on parents or anything like that. It's all there to be filled in, but they send that so they can be given, you know, and you've got one for each of them fish to pass on to say, yes, that's a Dainichi fish, if you need that kind of validation from it. But generally, like I said, them blank ones are then out there. You know, if you choose not to use them, they can be misused at that point as well. So that's where you can see the system starting to become messy, because there's just a blank certificate there that any photo can be attached to and any details can be filled in. And that then comes down to the individuals and their own integrity. So you see where you can start picking holes in it. If you've got a valuable fish, yes, it's nice to have. And I would say absolutely, because if it's coming from one of them big farms, again, to prove that authenticity, but it just doesn't come with all of them. You know, the small toe side that I've raised that you won't get them certificates with, and they're absolutely mega fish. Then it just comes down to trusting the person that you're buying them off, that it's coming from the right place. But it might be then, like I say, there's some blanks that get filled in. Is it the same if it's a blank certificate filled in by somebody over here than it is genuinely done, signed and sealed out there in Japan? No, I don't think it is whatsoever. And then we move into the realms of Ian, I've just seen that football chat is banned. Just remember that right now. There's a temporary suspension on it till United start winning again. And yes, I am that fickle. Yeah, the identification certificates. So we used to produce them to do our price books for individual fish. And they're just there as a nice record for people. You know, it's a nice branded, it's almost like a business card, and it's got a picture of the fish at the time you bought it. It's got all the details listed out, and it's nice for you to have for your records. And when a dealer puts a nice bit of effort in, it's a nice thing to pin up in your filter house and stuff like that. Again, overall, do I place any value on a certificate? Personally, not a single bit. I just don't give a shit about them. I get it from your guys' side of the fence and why you'd want it. But again, I think if it's out there chasing it, again, it's open for someone to have you a little bit. Should you want it even on the highest quality purchases? No, a lot of breeders don't make them that produce high quality fish as well. It's with them big ones. I think if you're paying a big brand tax on something and you're getting into the major realms, then yes. But if you're buying it off of someone and you don't trust them enough to know that they're telling you where that fish is from and they've got some kind of history and all the rest of it, you probably shouldn't be buying off them anyway, because you clearly don't trust them. So I don't think that's a wise transaction to do at that point myself, personally, not one that I would. It's going to be temporary, mate. Trust me. Yeah, that's where I'm at with that one. To be honest with you, I just think it's, again, coming back to you in your own right should know and be confident in the fish that you're buying. And if you're not, and if you need a piece of paper to tell you that it's good, you probably shouldn't be buying it, is where I'm at with all that. That's not dismissing that it's nice to have, again, as a record and just along them lines. But yeah, certificate of authenticity really should come right from the breeder and be done and everything at that point. But again, yeah, for me, not the one, but a nice thing to have in your filter house. I get that as you're building up your collection, but invest in your knowledge and, you know, be solid, guys, with what you're buying. Yeah, is where I'd go with that one, in all honesty. Well, guys, that seems to have gone very, very quickly. I am going to get some much better form of something to stick them to the wall for next week. And I've actually got a few more to go. That one. No, that's it. That corner. A few more to go up on that wall for next week. But yeah, other than that, guys, I know I've got a nice video coming up on the channel about that shipment that I had in, the Maruyama and the Dainichi one. That's going to possibly be out tomorrow. I think tomorrow or the next day for sure. Aaron did tell me he was uploading it tonight, so we'll get that done. And then, yeah, on from there. Busy season. Like I say, we've got some banging events coming up and announcements. But yeah, I'm going to, as soon as I get off of this, I know a lot of you are in the WhatsApp group, which we are keeping open, by the way, but we're just using that to post out kind of general news that's going on. So you can join that here. If you scan that code, you can get into the WhatsApp group. If you want to just follow there's no open chat in it. So you just get notifications when there's new videos, stuff like that. I ping it in. But what I am going to do is I'm going to set up another batch of invites over into the Telegram community if you want to get yourself in there. So you can jump in the WhatsApp first and then have a chance at getting into the Telegram group as well, which we're building up slowly just as we manage it and figure out Telegram and all the rest of it as well. At some point, we will just open it up permanently. But for now, we're keeping it like that. So there we go. Thanks to everyone who's tuned in. All right, hang on. It's nice to have one so you can prove it did once look that good. I like that one, mate. Happy days. Yeah, there we go, folks. Thanks again for everybody who has tuned in, and I'll be back next week.